Chapter 41. Withdrawing decisively. When Lan He and his group left the dungeon, He Shou and Deng Huayi were still waiting outside the door. Ever since the team appeared on TV, the two of them had been deeply impressed. They were the original members of that team and completely understood the team's strength. They were 100% certain that the reason for the 5-minute increase in their score was Jun Mo Shao. Deng Huayi, who had been very suspicious of Jun Mo Shao, was quite embarrassed at this moment. He then awkwardly spat out a sentence. What a great god. I admire him. I was rude before. On the other side, He Shou inquired from Lei Ming Dian Guang about how the dungeon went. Lei Ming Dian Guang spoke until his saliva flew everywhere. Yun Gui and Ji Yuqingcheng stood next to him and kept looking over. Fuck, why are you so fierce? With this kind of attack, the dungeon only took 10 minutes to pass. All right, now the dungeon record has been broken. Yu Xiu said to Lan He. That's right. That's right. Awesome. Awesome. Lan He responded repeatedly. Dude, Yu Xiu wanted to say something but stopped. Here. Things. Yu Xiu reminded. What things? Look, I was so happy that I forgot. Lan He suddenly understood that the person was asking for the promised things. He Zhu. Where are the things? Lan He didn't bring those things with him. He had told He Zhu to get them after confirming that the dungeon could be broken. The mobility, jumping height, and attack speed of characters in Glory were all greatly affected by their body weight. So when they needed the most strength, like breaking dungeon records or piking, everyone had to try their best to be light and go into battle. He Zhu brought the items to Lord Grimm to trade. Yu Xiu agreed. And the items were placed on the trading board. Clearly 72 strong spider threads, 2 mithril metals, and 8 white wolf fangs. What's wrong? Yu Xiu was puzzled. This was clearly the price he had originally offered, not the price that had been bargained for. You only needed one time to raise the record to 5 minutes. Who knows how much trouble you've saved us? Lan He said. Oh, so that's how it is. Yu Xiu was both amused and annoyed. He didn't need these materials for money, but all for the sake of creating the sky umbrella. He originally only needed 24, but he raised it to 72 to leave some room for bargaining. He had a lot of calculations, but now they were willing to give away 72 of them. Who wouldn't want something for free? Yu Xiu took it all without hesitation. Furthermore, Lan He's words were also very reasonable. The record had already been raised to 5 minutes in one go, which had really saved them a lot of trouble. Without this 5-minute difference, they didn't know how many more times they would have to compete with other guilds. Thank you, Yu Xiu said. Don't be polite, big brother. Take a look. Lan He had only just finished speaking when he suddenly became furious. Withdraw. Why did he withdraw? This guy actually received the goods and immediately withdrew from the guild. Lan He was still planning to start trying to entice this person to stay in their guild. Giving so many items, on one hand, was to pay for clearing the dungeon. On the other hand, it was because he had already determined that this person was a super expert, worthy of bribery. I knew it. Lan He thought back angrily. Discussing the price would turn into a transaction. To attract experts, one should discuss feelings. What am I looking at? Yu Xiu had just withdrawn from the guild, still asking Lan He's last half question. Let's keep in touch when we have time. Let's cooperate more in the future. Lan He said listlessly. Okay. Yu Xiu said. Big brother, do you want to clear the dungeon? Are you short of people? Just say how many you're short. I'll call for more for you. Lan He said. No need for now. I have other things to do. I'll go first. Yu Xiu said. Yeah, goodbye. Lan He watched Lord Grimm leave with tears streaming down his face. The group of Thunderclap, Lightning, and He Shou had already seen the news of Lord Grimm withdrawing from the guild, from the system long ago, and were still surprised. Seeing him leave, they immediately asked, why did he withdraw? Yun Gui asked. Let's withdraw after the matter is done. Lan He was furious. Why didn't you keep him? He Shou asked. Look at his skills. He left the guild faster than me talking. Lan He said. Is this also about the speed of operation? Everyone was stunned. Lan He was probably so angry that he was stupid. To attract such an expert, you can't just use incentives. With his level, the things he helped with were all commensurate with the incentives you gave, so he didn't offer a soft price. You have to have more connections and gain some affection. He Shou said. That's right. That's what I thought. So how come? Lan He gloomily summarized for everyone what he had done that caused the dungeon activity that should have been a strong friendship to turn into a transaction. Hey, if you don't use the beauty trick, quickly inform the boss and ask him to send some beauties over. Lei Ming Dian Guang said. Cough. Someone coughed a few times. Then coordinate your actions with Jiu. Laming Dian Guang added. Jiu Qiqing was speechless, only looking at Jun Imo Zhao's figure that had not completely disappeared. Try you. Just look in that direction, okay? Could it be that you? Huading Trong Dim ran around Jiu Qiqing twice. You can't wait any longer and want to make a move now? Laming Dian Guang said. Jiu Qiqing didn't care about these things, quietly saying, Don't you guys think this guy is a bit too strong? The group was stunned, immediately falling silent. The few of us can also be considered experts in glory, right? Suppose we're not. Lan He is definitely also counted, right? But I see that this guy's level is much higher. Then what level of expert is he? Jiu Qiqing said. Cough cough. It's been a long time since I played a small account, Lan He said. They're all small accounts. Jiu reminded. His weapons are better than mine. I guess they're orange. Lan He said. He hasn't changed jobs yet. Jiu reminded again. In short, everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses that complement each other. All right, I admit it. This guy's level is probably higher than mine. Lan He found that he could no longer win back his face. There are just so many glory players. It's not surprising to have such a hidden expert, right? Everyone has seen it before, for example, Tui Duong Quan Bo. When this name was mentioned, everyone suddenly fell silent. Because they knew that was a name that made Lan He unable to be happy. That person was an extremely prominent expert recently in Lan Ki Kak. In the past his reputation had always been small, but in the past few days he had shown extremely strong fighting strength in the dungeons of the Chi Lin Vuk. Relying on the importance of the guild, the equipment on his person had become better and better. In Lan Ki Kak there were many people discussing whether to change the guild's 5 great experts or not. And the person who was compared to Tui Duong Quan Bo the most among the 5 great experts was Lam Kio Xian Tuet, Lan He's big account, because the two of them were in the same profession, both were swordsmen. Because of his extremely martial style, swordsmen were very popular. Welcomed in Glory is a character that many people love. This Tui Duong Quan Bo is not a humble topic of discussion for everyone, often on the guild channel boasting about what records he has set, what records he has broken, recounting which master he defeated yesterday in the arena, how many people he single-handedly fought on the wild map the day before, clearly showing Lam Ha's intention to compete with Lam Kio Xian Tuet, almost not even making an appointment to fight directly. And this time Lam Ha received orders to bring people to the 10th area to reclaim the land. In the guild there were already people spreading the news that this was the guild's intention to promote Tui Duong Quan Bo, intentionally pushing Lam Ha away. Chapter 42. Price Hanging. Lan He was a man of pride. Being suppressed by Tui Duong Quan Bo in the guild, he could no longer bear it on his face. In the end, he took the initiative to ask Tui Duong Quan Bo out, preparing to go to the arena to discuss a match. Tui Duong Quan Bo had been waiting for this opportunity, so of course he happily agreed. Going to the arena to discuss a few matches with people in the guild was a very normal thing. However, the people of Lam Ki Kak all knew that this discussion was not simple. The victory or defeat of this match would decide who was qualified to be ranked among the 5 great masters of Lam Ki Kak. As a result, the result of this battle did not take place, and the president of Lam Ki Kak spoke up at this moment, telling Lan He to bring people to Area 10 to reclaim land. Lan He temporarily left the divine domain and started to get busy in the new area, temporarily putting aside the unhappy matters. But at this moment, a master suddenly appeared, causing him to suddenly mention Tui Duong Quan Bo. The friends beside him didn't know what to say next. In the silence, Lam Ha suddenly received a message, opened it. It was Xatian 2 of Trung Tao Duong. Ha ha ha. Why did the master leave after breaking the record? Lam Ha was stunned, immediately angry. Shameless, you planted people in our guild. Don't be so rude. It's like you didn't plant spies in our guild. Xatn 2 said. I haven't planted any yet. Lam Ha replied eloquently. Planting spies on each other was indeed a very normal thing. It was just the second day in the new area. Lam Ha sighed, still hadn't paid attention to this matter. If you're that good, then don't plant any. X8 Qianzi sent a message. Lam Ha quickly replied. Haha. If you actively invite our people to join the guild, you can only blame yourself for being blind. X8 Qianzi received this message and was also confused. What do you mean? Lam Ha did not reply. Stop it, Dad. I know you are just scaring me, old lamb. Stop using these tricks, too naive. X8 Qianzi said. I don't have time to play with you anymore. I'm going to level up. Lamha replied. Lamha was busy with his own work, while X8 Qianzi on this side was getting nervous. Receiving the news that Jun Ma Xiao had withdrawn from Lan Shigo, Xie Qianzi was overjoyed, preparing to take action to attract him, while also wanting to send a message to mock Lan He. But unexpectedly Lan He said such a strange thing, as if Jun Ma Xiao was intentionally released by him to attract their guild. Xie Qianzi felt that 8 parts of Lan He was trying to act mysterious, but he could not confirm it for sure. As for undercover agents, it was not easy to guard against them in the game. Being too complicated would only increase the trouble, but it was not like a character of Jun Ma Xiao's level. This was a great master. He would definitely be highly regarded when he came to the guild. He was not the kind of character who just hung his name in the guild for show. If this kind of character became an undercover agent, it would be a disaster. In Glory, there was once a guild that was as strong as the other 3, but it also fell because of undercover agents. At that time, the expert that the guild valued was actually an undercover agent sent by the opposing guild. In the end, the undercover agent's power was complete, revealing his true form, and he took a group of people and supplies and left the guild, causing the guild's vitality to be severely damaged. But the more fatal blow was that the key figure during the entire process of the guild's recovery was actually an undercover agent, and in the end, he also took his power and left at the crucial moment. A super powerful guild just like that could not recover from that. After that incident, the guilds in Glory were all very careful towards experts who wanted high positions. The bigger the guild, the more so. And in the undercover agent incident, that golden undercover agent also relied on the opportunity of the newly opened area, mixed into the guild's pioneering group, and climbed from the lower levels, step by step, steadily, killing all the way to the divine domain. This person's perseverance was indeed the king of undercover agents of Glory. But what about this Lord Grimm now? Suddenly standing out in District 10, attracting more attention than anyone else. This kind of person will definitely become the target of competition for guilds. Is this an undercover agent? At the beginning of the year, are all undercover agents this high level? X8 Qianzi looked sad on the surface, but still decided to try to contact Lord Grimm. As long as he was prepared in his heart and had a good grasp of the initiative, it would be fine. Lord Grimm left the Frost Forest and was running towards Bourse. There was a land located on the southwest border of the Frost Forest in the Glory continent. Bourse was a small town near the border. No matter which area, this was always the first stop for people who had just left the novice village, and it had always been very lively. After Lord Grimm left the novice village, he went straight to fight the Frost Forest instance, and had not yet registered his household in Bourse town. Where the household registration is, after the character dies, he will be resurrected there. This is the rule of Glory. The town of Bourse is not big, but it has everything. Yishio let Lord Grimm go to the warehouse first, and put in the newly obtained strong spider silk. Looking at the storage chest with more than 88 strong spider silks, Yishio smiled and shook his head. After leaving 48 spider silks, the remaining items were all put into the equipment editing system storage. Just as he was about to enter the equipment editing system, a message suddenly popped up. He opened it and saw that it was Tianqi. Congratulations, big brother. When I was playing the dungeon, I saw you update the record of Frost Forest. Amazing. Tianqi's message said. Haha, nothing. You joined the Blue Stream Pavilion? Tianqi asked. No, I just helped them break the record, temporarily added a guild. Now I'm leaving. Yishio said. Ah. Tianqi was surprised. How many times have you guys played the dungeon? Yishio suddenly asked. Twice. Tianqi said. Lack of people? I still have 3 more times to play. Yishio suddenly wanted to use up all the dungeon attempts first. Yes, of course there will be. Tianqi was in a daze, but immediately came back to his senses. The big boss expert actually wanted to play the dungeon with them. That was great. I'll go over now. At this time, Yishio let Lord Grimm leave the warehouse and ran towards the Frost Forest. Tianqi and the others were just a few very ordinary players, not at the level of experts from the Blue Stream Pavilion. Playing the dungeon with the people from the Blue Stream Pavilion would be more efficient. But Yishio would rather stay with Tianqi and the others. He could see through the big guild's intention to attract him. And he also understood that the strength of the Blue Stream Pavilion would indeed provide him with enough materials to upgrade the Wu Tianji. However, joining a guild would also bring with it responsibilities and obligations. The guild would arrange for you to team up to play the dungeon, level up, and lead you to do quests. On the contrary, he also needed you to help others with the map, level up, or do quests. Yishio didn't want to be tied down like that. With his top-notch skills, not joining any guild meant that he could cooperate with any guild. Today, he helped Lan Shigo break the record, and next time, he could help Zhong Chaohao. Anyone with eyes would recognize his value, and every guild that wanted to keep a record would seek him out for help. With this kind of price, compared to joining a guild and hanging from a tree branch, wasn't it much better? Chapter 43. No need for a priest. Tian Qi and the others had just come out of the dungeon, under the command of the person named Yue Yang. The second half of the dungeon went even smoother. It could be seen that this person's level was higher than theirs. He was an expert with rich experience. But towards this person, Tian Qi and the others did not have any respect. They actually did not realize that not only Qin Yu, but now they were also poisoned by the expert. Yue Yang's level was already considered very high among the players, but he did not enter their eyes. After coming out of the dungeon, this person also stood mysteriously to the side, acting like, "Come here, praise me enthusiastically." The result was a message from the system: "You have been kicked out of the team." "Fuck, bastard, why did you kick me out?" Yue Yang was furious. "Didn't you have something to do? Hurry up and go." Tianqi said. "I'm not busy now." Yue Yang said. "Sorry, there's no more room. Our friends want to come here." Tianqi said. Yue Yang's eyes lit up when she heard this, and she hurriedly asked, "Could it be Jun Imo Xiao? What does it have to do with you?" Tianqi said. As a result, this Yue Yang refused to leave, shamelessly circling around the four of them. Tianqi felt annoyed and wanted to kill this guy, but this guy was a master of the overbearing scheme. Tianqi really didn't dare to make a move. This guy refused to leave. He must have some kind of intention. Tianqi could guess. He couldn't help but feel even more annoyed. Competing with this kind of master, they couldn't compete. Their strength was average. Being able to randomly play together with the master a few times was already considered very lucky. Now if there was another choice, the master team of the overbearing scheme, would the master still go with them? They had only known each other for a day, and they didn't have any deep feelings yet. While he was feeling frustrated, Jun Maxiao's figure gradually approached. Shinyu roared, "Great God!" In the game, the louder the voice, the farther it would travel. But the issue of loudness or softness still had to be made by the real person. It could be seen that whether he was at home or at the internet cafe, Shinyu had really cleared his throat and roared loudly. This matter, if there were outsiders present, would look quite stupid. On the other side, Jun Maxiao raised his battle spear in his hand, as if greeting them. Tianqi and the others were preparing to run over, but this Yue Yang was even faster than a rabbit, whoosh, and rushed forward first. "You are Jun Maxiao? I've admired you for a long time. I'm the master Yue Yang of the overbearing scheme." Yue Yang immediately introduced herself upon arriving. "Hello." Yushi replied, turning to ask the group of Tianqi who had just surrounded him. "You're friends?" "That's right. I'm a bosom friend of Big Brother Tianqi. We just finished playing the dungeon together." Yue Yang said. "Fuck, this guy." Tianqi had never met such a shameless person. "Big Brother Tianqi, don't just leave the dungeon and not even bother to know each other," Yue Yang said. Tianqi really wanted to kick him to death, and quickly threw a team invitation to the expert Big Brother. He said to Yue Yang, "We're playing the dungeon. If you're busy, then go. Bring me along. Bring me along." Yue Yang kept shouting. How could he look like an expert? Even the new ghosts who were asked to be dragged along in the novice village couldn't be this shameless. People were just typing. "There's no more room." Tianqi said. "Good girl, can you give me your seat?" Yue Yang found the weak point of the team, shamelessly clinging to Qinyu. Qinyu was a newcomer and had never seen someone so shameless, so he was momentarily clumsy and didn't know what to do. Just as he was about to agree with that guy, Yushio promptly took action. "Are you a priest?" Yushio asked. "That's right, an expert, very good at technique." Yue Yang spoke as she took out a silver cross pendant. Tianqi and the others didn't recognize this item, but they knew for sure that it was a good item. "Ice crystal cross, orange weapon," Yushio said. "Wow, you're really an expert. You have good eyes. Take me with you," Yue Yang praised. "We don't need a priest," Yushio said. Instant kill. Asterisk, this is instant kill. 6 words, instant kill. Yue Yang, who was extremely noisy, instantly became quiet. Tianqi and the others really worshiped the big brother expert even more. We don't need a priest. How domineering. If it were an ordinary person standing in front of the Frost Forest instance and telling others, we don't need a priest, even Tianqi would look down on this bunch of braggarts. But the big brother expert is not like that. The big brother expert said he doesn't need a priest. Then of course he doesn't need a priest. The priest goes somewhere else to play. Enter the instance, enter the instance, enter the instance. Tianqi shouted loudly. No one paid any attention to Yue Yang. Yue Yang was like a sculpture, looking at the 5 people entering the instance one after another. Big brother expert, how do we fight? Tianqi directly transferred the team leader position to Jun Imo Xiao. I'll lead the monsters. Everyone just fight with all their might. Yusho said. Although the most difficult part of one wave of rushing was to pull the monsters to gather on MT, the requirements for the others were also very high. Fighting with these people, Yusho didn't believe he could do it. With a master boss guarding the dungeon, Tianqi and the others felt that playing the dungeon was fun and relaxing. Suddenly, classmate Shinyu was a bit clueless and dared to ask the master boss, "Great God, can we change the record? Wouldn't this question be humiliating?" They couldn't break the record. The problem wasn't with the master boss, but with people like them who weren't masters. Tianqi and the others were very embarrassed and immediately answered this question for others. The dungeon progressed smoothly. Tianqi and the others chose to skip it and let Yusho choose the equipment dropped by the boss first. But if the equipment belonged to their profession, Yusho would let them choose. The 2 dungeons were quickly completed. No hidden boss appeared, nor did any shocking equipment appear. Jun Imo Xiao had one more time to enter the dungeon. Tianqi and the others didn't have any left. They could only leave with regret. As a result, as soon as they left the dungeon, they saw that Yue Yang standing outside. After the first round, this person had clearly left. Seeing the 5 people come out, Yue Yang immediately ran over. Out of attempts? This guy's cheerful expression made Tianqi want to punch him. Fighting the dungeon with them, Yue Yang knew that they only had 2 attempts to enter the dungeon. I have 1 attempt. On the contrary, Yusho was very honest. What a coincidence. I also have 1 attempt. Yue Yang said. Really? Yusho laughed. What an even bigger coincidence. Look, there are 3 people on my side, and just so happen to only have 1 attempt left. Don't you think it's a coincidence? Yue Yang said. 3 people walked over from the crowd outside the dungeon, all with the guild title of overbearing scheme above their heads. What a coincidence. Yusho said. Since it's so convenient, why don't we go in together? Yue Yang said. And then break the record at the same time? Yusho said. That's right, that's right. Yue Yang was delighted. If you want to break the record, there are 2 conditions. Yusho said. You said. First, we have to charge a fee. Yusho said. Ah, this is negotiable. Yue Yang said. What about the other thing? No need for a priest. Yusho smiled and said. Club suit, club suit, club suit, club suit. Chapter 44, Collecting Fees. Ha 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 ha. The Tianqi group laughed exaggeratedly. Before, they had criticized Shinyu for calling him Great Minister and looked rather stupid. Now, their laughter had reached the level where outsiders would think they were runaways. Many players outside the dungeon, upon hearing the laughter, hurriedly turned their gazes over. The result was that they saw a person named Yue Yang crazily spamming more than 20 face exploding into ashes emoticons in the chat box. What happened? The players asked each other, but no one knew. So everyone slowly controlled their characters to move closer to that side, intending to listen in. Then they heard the name Yue Yang, who had been spamming fiercely just now, as if he was gritting his teeth, saying, Then how do you want to distribute the professions? 3 fire elemental mages with magic attack above 430, and a magic scholar above level 22 with 2 Lulu, who levels up and knows Night Cloak. Good technique, stable operation, no mistakes allowed. Yisho said. Yue Yang was stunned, bringing 3 mages. This was truly a DPS team that was strong to the extreme. The mage had low defense and low health. The magic scholar only wore leather armor, only a little stronger. The entire team was strong in attack and weak in defense. If one person OTs, the entire team could be wiped out. This was truly a team that did not allow mistakes. No mistakes meant not being allowed to make a single mistake. For such a harsh request, Yu Weiyang was not too surprised. Because the current record was hanging high on the board, 20 minutes 24 seconds 11. Such a fierce record. To break it, one would need an extremely harsh method. Once the team was not good, it would take an unknown amount of time to save people. Such a team would also not be able to capture the record. A team like that, it is impossible to find enough people right now, Yu Weiyang said. In fact, not only now, they also could not find them in a short time. Moreover, it was not just the overbearing scheme. No matter which family's guild, it was impossible to immediately have 3 fire elemental mages with magic attack above 430. Magic attack above 430. The weapon must be a level 20 purple staff. How could the purple staff drop so easily? Even if it does come out, it's not certain that it's for the fire element. The overbearing scheme currently has 3 purple weapons for elemental mages, but none of them are fire. It's fine. We'll contact you later if we find enough. Yi Xiu said. Is there any other choice? Yu Weiyang said. Level 25. Yi Xiu said. Level 25 is a completely new stage, new equipment, new skills, and everyone's strength has also increased greatly. In level 20 to 25 dungeons like the Frost Forest, the records are all won by level 25 teams. All right, let's add friends first, he said. Okay. Yi Xiu and Yi Weiyang added friends. Yi Weiyang was decent for a while, but after adding friends, he revealed his true colors. Then we don't need to win the record now. We're 4 short of 1. You come with us. Fuck. Tianqi was impressed. This guy is really like a cockroach. Can't be beaten to death, can't be crushed, has a super invincible thick skin. All right. Yi Xiu also agreed. Then charge a little lower. This also wants to charge a fee. Could it be that you also charged a fee when you fought those guys? Yu Weiyang said. No fee, but the equipment dropped will all be distributed by the team leader. I'm the team leader. Yi Xiu said. It's fine, we'll do the same. Yu Weiyang happily replied. Tianqi standing next to him was unhappy when he heard this. Their team really gave priority to distributing equipment to the great experts, but they knew that the great experts were kind people and had never fought over items that suited them. When they went to Spider Cave, they even gave up the purple items, and Yu Zhongmian was also someone who had a rare grudge against that expert. You should take a closer look. I haven't changed my class yet. I want all the equipment. Yi Xiu said, just a few pieces of equipment. Let's go, let's go. Yi Weiyang repeatedly made requests to invite a party. However, the other party was still in another team, so the system rejected them. In the end, after Yi Xiu left this team, Lord Grimm was added to Yi Weiyang's team. It was a standard team consisting of 1 metric ton, 1 healer, 3 DPS. After joining the team, he immediately gave the team leader to Lord Grimm. Then let's go. Yi Xiu controlled Lord Grimm into the dungeon. Let's go. Yi Weiyang led 3 other people to chase after him. He was extremely satisfied with this result. He wasn't in a hurry to set any records. He just wanted to see Lord Grimm's level. The Frost Forest was filled with snow and ice, and it was quiet everywhere. 5 people stood in a row, no one moved, no one spoke. This silence lasted for about half a minute. Hey. Yi Weiyang seemed to be testing his ears. What are you talking about? Yi Xiu asked. Is anyone talking? I can't hear anyone talking. Yi Weiyang said. Is it because no one is talking? Yi Xiu said. No one is talking. The other 3 were also certain. Why not talk? Yi Weiyang said. Who are you asking? You. Why should I talk? Yi Xiu replied. Commander, he said. I'm the commander? Yes. Commander fee. More than 20, faces exploding into ash, were sent over. The other 3 were already whistling in the wind. You're not that bad, are you? Haha. Yi Xiu laughed. How do you calculate commander fee? Yi Weiyang realized that he had met his match today, and there was no other way. Who told him to go around flattering others today? Yi Weiyang was secretly upset. 10 white wolf furs. Yi Xiu said. Dude, you're too mean. The 4 people said in unison. The white wolf fur wasn't a Lang Hao brush, but a wolf fur that had a chance to drop from the hidden boss white wolf in the Frost Forest, a rare material. You don't need my command. Yi Xiu said. Yi Weiyang thought about it. In order to fully understand the level and quality of a master, of course he needed to listen to his command. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and said, Okay, but I'll give it to you outside. Don't carry it on your person. Will this guy keep his word? Yi Xiu asked the other three people. Big guilds usually wouldn't go back on their word. Just like after making a verbal agreement with Lan He, Yi Xiu never suspected that the other party would turn their backs. But the level of shamelessness of this Yi Wei Yang was unimaginable. He had to show his doubts a little. Definitely, definitely. The three people quickly said. All right then. Yi Xiu agreed. Hurry up, Yi Wei Yang said. All right. MT pulls monsters. DPS up. Healers pay attention to MT. Yi Xiu commanded. The four were stunned and fell into silence for half a minute. Is that it? Yi Wei Yang asked. Of course. This is commanding. Yi Wei Yang collapsed. You guys are all experts. Everyone knows what to do. Yi Xiu said. Yi Wei Yang found that he was being fooled. If they followed the step-by-step fighting strategy, their team didn't need anyone to command them. Everyone could just act on their own. No, they couldn't waste commanding 10 white wolves. No, that doesn't count. Yi Wei Yang called out. Command each step. All right, Yi Xiu said. Knight, go lure the two dwarves at 10 o'clock. There are three possibilities. If both of them are ranged, use the fastest speed to approach when attacked by them. Use the falling phoenix hammer. You can jump away from the attack and create a shockwave to knock the monster down. Then attack it up close. Stabilize the hatred of one of the two first. If one is ranged and the other is melee, use the falling star hammer to interrupt the attack of the ranged one when the melee approaches. Use backlash to push it away. Prioritize stabilizing the hatred of the ranged one. If both of them are melee, use the falling phoenix hammer and push one away with backlash. Stabilize the hatred of the other one. Understand, the knight's face was filled with tears. With such a command, do you think I'm an idiot? Chapter 45, Prototype Guide. 30 minutes 8 seconds 71. This was the result after Yi Xiu and Yi Wei Yang's 4 people finished the dungeon. An extremely normal result. A normal team would also take about 30 minutes to finish a dungeon of Frost Forest. The result was nothing to talk about, but Yi Wei Yang was really gritting his teeth throughout the entire process. The command fee this time was really a waste. From the beginning to the end, Jun Ma Xiao kept commanding. However, just like the time he commanded that night, he explained the most common fighting techniques in detail. If they had brought in new people, this dungeon trip could have brought them a lot of benefits. But for Yi Wei Yang, this dungeon was a waste of effort. Throughout the entire process, he couldn't see any outstanding experts. As a result, the 4 people were under a lot of pressure from the commander. They were considered experts, but their fighting and commanding methods were completely at the level of mortals. It was really like treating them like fools. Yi Wei Yang felt that Jun Ma Xiao was deliberately disguising himself. He deliberately made mistakes, wanting to stimulate the qualities of a great expert to show themselves. Therefore, the great expert patiently explained to Yi Wei Yang that he had just done something wrong. He had to do this, and do this. Hearing the snickering of his 3 close friends, Yi Wei Yang knew that he had now become a fool. In the end, he could only discover one clue. Jun Ma Xiao had not changed his class, but his damage was equal to the other 2 people in the team, so at least his weapon would not be inferior. But what was this battle spear? Yi Wei Yang had never seen it before. Brother, you fooled us. After exiting the dungeon, Yi Wei Yang said, Why do you say that? Is my command wrong? Yi Xiu said. Yi Wei Yang didn't know what to say. Even though his command was quite ordinary, he couldn't be too picky. He hadn't forgotten any details. If it wasn't for Yi Wei Yang intentionally making mistakes, following his command wouldn't have caused any unexpected incidents. This at least proved that this guy's basic knowledge was quite solid. Yi Wei Yang tried to hypnotize herself into accepting this way of speaking, trying to pretend that this dungeon trip wasn't in vain, that she had gained something. Go get the white wolf fur. Yi Xiu asked. Yi Wei Yang's face was filled with tears. It was someone else who had gained something. After getting the white wolf fur, Yi Xiu left. Yi Wei Yang's character didn't move at all. He was still sitting blankly in front of the computer. Suddenly, someone beside him poked him twice. Yi Wei Yang turned his head. It was one of the friends who had just played the dungeon with him. That person was pointing at his computer screen, signaling Yi Wei Yang to look. That person's screen wasn't an in-game image, but a post in the game glory. Yi Wei Yang went closer to look, suddenly heard that person say, I find his commanding style too familiar, so I went to take a look. Yue Young only glanced at it, almost vomiting blood onto the screen. Damn it, basic knowledge. Damn it can't be nitpicked. This bastard clearly read the instructions exactly as they were commanding, not a single word different. Of course he wouldn't forget any details. I've been played, that friend said. 8 White Wolf Furs. Facing a tutorial post with over 1 million views, Yue Yang felt even more helpless. Being toyed with was also something she asked for herself. The other person didn't say they wanted to fight the dungeon with her, yet she shamelessly pestered them. The other person didn't say they would command, yet she shamelessly asked them to command. At first, the other person didn't even read the tutorial. She herself asked them to command step by step. Step by step, my asshole. With their team's quality, they had never heard of step-by-step commanding before. Asking for it herself was really painful to the shit out of them. Look, does it hurt now? Beast. Yue Yang gritted her teeth, then sent another message to Lord Grimm. Big brother, you're not kind at all. You're using the tutorial to trick us. No, that tutorial is mine. Yi Xiu said. Really? Yue Yang hurriedly turned around and asked her friend, who wrote that tutorial? The friend naturally didn't care about this, and quickly returned to the previous page. After reading it, he said, Autumn Leaf. Yue Yang was furious and continued to pound on the keyboard. Stop bullshitting. That tutorial was written by great god Yi Xiu. That's right, it was me. Shameless. Damn it, too shameless. Yue Yang was completely speechless. I have something to do. I'll talk to you later. Yue Yang received another message from the other party. Avoiding, this is avoiding. At 3 a.m., what could possibly happen? Yue Yang thought. At Xing Xian Internet Cafe, Yi Xiu was holding several cans of Coke and handing them out to customers. Nothing good happened that night. At 7 a.m. in the morning, when customers were turning off their computers and leaving, Lord Grimm finally reached level 21. After leaving the beginner village, leveling up wasn't as fast as before. First, the experience points needed to level up increased greatly, and second, the number of times to play the dungeon was also limited. Although level 20 players could play the Bone Graveyard dungeon in the novice village countless times, if they did so, they would discover that the experience points they received from the Bone Graveyard were lower than before because their character level was 5 levels higher than the dungeon. After level 20, in addition to the dungeon, players also had to rely on doing a lot of quests and fighting monsters in the wild map to level up. On the top ranks of the level 10 table, Yi Xiu saw the names of Lan He and Yue Yang, both level 24. Obviously, they had been online for 24 hours, but in less than 2 days, they had achieved such an achievement in the newly opened area. Their characters were built by the guild and were clearly completely different from the average player class. After this group of level 24 players, level 22 and 23 players were almost zero, consisting of only a very small group of people. Level 20 and 21 were the ones who had just opened the area and were already competing to get into the game, working hard. Just like Junmo Xiao or Tian Qi, the amount of time they spent on the game was already considered quite crazy. There were still many players who had yet to leave the newbie village. Good morning, Brother Yi. At this time, at the internet cafe, the morning shift boys and the cashier girl had arrived on time for work. Everyone greeted Yi Xiu. Good morning. Yi Xiu left the game and logged out of the counter computer. Everyone go to work. I'm off work now. Okay. After greeting everyone, Yi Xiu stretched and returned to his room on the second floor. As soon as he opened the door, he heard the sound of the TV in the living room. Boss, you woke up early? Yi Xiu said as he entered the room, only to see the TV was on. Chun Guo was sleeping straight on the sofa. She had nothing on her body and was so cold that she curled up like a shrimp. Boss, go back to your room and sleep. Yi Xiu walked over and patted her twice. Chun Guo turned over, her face full of disgust at having her sleep disturbed. Yi Xiu was helpless, seeing that Chun Guo's door was not closed. He went in to help Chun Guo find something to cover her with. Instinctively, he looked over Chun Guo's room a few times and found that the floor, walls, and ceiling decorations were all new, but the furniture and bed looked quite old. Yi Xiu didn't think much of it. He took a blanket from Chun Guo's bed and went out, covered Chun Guo with it, turned off the TV, and then went to the storage room to rest. Club suit, club suit, club suit, club suit. Chapter 46. Glory is easy. Chingwa couldn't remember how many times she had fallen asleep on the sofa while watching TV. Normally, she would wake up because it was too cold and then quietly crawl back to bed. This time, she suddenly found herself wrapped in a warm blanket. The scent on the blanket was very familiar. It was hers. Chingwa completely thought that she had climbed into bed to sleep, comfortably rolled up the blanket and turned around. Bang, she fell off the sofa. Chingwa grabbed the falling blanket. It took a long time to come back to her senses. Only then did she realize that she was still lying on the sofa. The sofa wasn't high. Falling wouldn't matter. She just felt both frustrated and amused. Chingwa got up with the blanket, looked at the storage room door, and knew that all of this was done by the newcomer Yushio. Leaving the blanket in the bedroom, he went into the bathroom to wash his face and rinse his mouth. He was only halfway through when there was a loud knock on the door. Chingwa opened the door with a toothbrush in his mouth and saw a girl standing outside the door with a gentle smile. "Oh, Xiaotang, you're back." Chingwa chewed on her toothbrush, her mouth full of foam. "Yes, but why are you just waking up now?" Tang Ro had big and small bags in her hands and couldn't hold the key, so she knocked on the door. As a result, she saw Chingwa like this. "I slept late last night." Chingwa's mouth full of foam still wanted to continue chatting. "Let's finish brushing our teeth first." After Tang Ro entered the door, she conveniently put her things on the ground and pushed Chingwa into the bathroom. "I heard you just hired a new person?" Chingwa brushed her teeth. Tang Ro leaned against the door, looked at the storage room door, tilted her head and asked Chingwa. "Right. Those guys told you?" "Yeah. There's no place to stay for now. I'll let him stay there first," Chingwa said. "I heard he's already pissed you off just after arriving for a day?" Tang Ro obviously heard a lot of news from downstairs. Chingwa didn't know what to say, not just pissed off. Last night, she even wanted to strangle this guy. But this guy was pissing her off on one side and covering her with a blanket on the other. All the good and bad things fell on his head. "What's wrong?" Tang Ro saw Chingwa helplessly standing there. "Nothing. He's really good at playing glory," Chingwa said. "How good?" "Like you." Tang Ro laughed. "This damn brat." Chingwa rolled her eyes. Mentioning this made her very upset. This Tang Ro girl was not a glory player at all. Chingwa decided to try to train her to play with him. While using Trucky and how to PK with people in the arena, he also introduced the game's appeal to Tang Ro. With two things in mind, in that match, Chingwa was mistreated by someone. But at this moment, Tang Ro suddenly showed a "let her try" expression, which made Chingwa feel happy. In the first match, Tang Ro was also mistreated by someone, and immediately asked Chingwa for some details about the operation. In the second match, they still lost, so Chingwa took the initiative to introduce some fighting strategies that the opponent in front of them could choose to use. Therefore, in the third match, Tang Ro immediately turned back to her opponent. It's very simple. When Tang Ro turned her head to say these words to Chingwa, the excited expression on her face just now had completely disappeared. Chingwa, who was standing by the side, could only stare with her mouth wide open. A newbie, using 2 matches to get familiar with the operations, understanding how to play, was able to reverse others. Chingwa also did not understand the other person's level very well. At that time, she went to borrow the account of a customer who was a previous opponent with the same profession as her in the internet cafe. Although Chingwa was a master of artillery, she also knew quite a bit about other professions, at least for a newbie who had only had a little contact with glory. She was stronger, plus her operations were more proficient. But in the end, she was still reversed. Chingwa really could not believe it, pulled Tang Ro back, who originally did not want to continue playing, played a few more games, although she barely won a few times, but the more she played, the more she lost. Obviously Tang Ro became more and more proficient. And at this time, Chingwa also discovered the reason why Tang Ro could do such an unbelievable thing. Hand speed. This girl actually had an amazing hand speed, making Chingwa, who had been playing for 3 years in glory, feel embarrassed. Talent. This was talent. With such talent, not playing glory was such a waste. Chingwa started to try harder to coax and entice Tang Ro into entering the glory continent, but in the end, she failed. Chingwa happily introduced the charms of the glory continent, but in return, she was only yawning sleepily all day long. Chingwa tried for 2 months but still saw no results, and finally an event made her completely despair. The challenge mission of the Divine Realm. To enter the Divine Realm, players needed to complete a series of consecutive missions, including some normal monster killing missions, some boss killing missions, some material searching missions, and some missions that required winning PKs in the arena. But what makes players the most headache is the skill challenge mission in it. The skill challenge mission not only requires defeating the opponent, but also requires that in the process of defeating the opponent, many system operating conditions must be achieved, such as the number of consecutive attacks, the total amount of damage from the back attack, the number of aerial pursuits, etc. There are countless people who have been stuck at this stage, unable to survive. Qingguo was also stuck on the skill challenge mission. No matter what she did, she couldn't meet the requirements. As a result, Tang Rou took her account. After a few days of research, she helped her complete the skill challenge mission of the Divine Domain. Qingguo was completely speechless. She understood why Tang Rou had never been interested in this game, because the things that required hard work and practice to achieve in the eyes of others became easy for her. Glory was named Glory precisely because she hoped that players would see each piece of equipment, each technique, each record as glory. And every player agreed with this. Also because those things were really hard to obtain, they needed to work hard to achieve. But for Tang Rou, how many players were stuck to the point of death in the skill challenge mission that she had completed in just a few days? What glory could she feel? No one would consider something as simple as raising a glass to drink water as glorious. Qingguo was desperate, but she never gave up. In the past 2 years, whenever there was a formidable opponent, she would drag Tang Rou to try to fight them. As a result, Tang Rou would turn around and ask her again and again, "Is it that simple?" Qingguo couldn't stand it anymore. She couldn't deal with it herself, but the other person would just turn around and say it's that simple. So how could she bear it? That's why Qingguo had done less of these things in the past few months. However, when Yushi was mentioned, Qingguo's long-sealed thoughts suddenly flared up. She suddenly wiped her mouth and threw down the towel. Her head was still in a mess, and she wanted to go knock on Yushio's door. Wake him up. You two try. Aish, stop it. Tang Rou quickly pulled Qingguo back. Didn't he just rest after working all night? We'll talk about it when he wakes up. Yeah, that's good too. Tranqua thought for a while and put it aside. He picked up the towel and prepared to wipe his face again. Suddenly, he thought of something. That's right. His hands look a lot like yours. Very beautiful. Chapter 47. I'm a loner. You help me cover the blanket. I'll keep your breakfast for you. When Yushi woke up and washed his face, he saw a note on the mirror. After he finished cleaning himself, he went to the living room, and when he saw the table, he was speechless. At 3 in the afternoon, eating fried dough sticks with soy milk? They're still cold. However, no matter how you put it, it was something the owner intentionally left behind, so he had to save face for her. Yushio put the fried dough stick in his mouth and carried it out the door. The internet cafe continued to be bustling because of Glory's new area, but Happy was also large enough. It was rare for the machines to be filled to the brim with people, so there was no more room. Yushio walked around, looking for an empty spot in the smoking area, but when he felt his pocket, he discovered that there were no more cigarettes. This was even more painful than eating cold fried dough sticks. What was more painful was that the medicine was gone, and there was no money left. How could he live? Yushio felt that he should ask the boss to advance his salary, the reason being to take care of food and accommodation, but he ate very little, on average only eating 2 meals a day, saving who knows how much money to buy cigarettes. However, thinking about Qingguo's hatred for cigarettes, Yushio felt that his thoughts were probably difficult to carry out. While he was lost in thought, someone pushed him from behind, and he quickly turned around. The one who pushed Yushio was Qingguo. As Yushio turned around, the fried dough stick in his mouth almost stuck to Qingguo's face. Qingguo was furious and started to scold him. You also suck on cigarettes? You also suck on fried dough sticks? Is there anything you can't suck on? Can't you hold it with your hands? As he spoke, Qingguo suddenly thought of Yushio's beautiful hands. Such beautiful hands were stained with the smell of cigarettes, stained with oil from holding fried dough sticks. It was such a pity. Could it be that holding medicine in your mouth and holding fried dough sticks in your mouth is correct? Oh shit, what nonsense are you thinking? Qingguo shook her head, glared at Yushio, and said, "Follow me." Yushio followed Qingguo towards the front of the counter. Tang Rou was sitting at the counter at this time. Seeing Qingguo leading Yushio over, she stood up first and smiled. Tang Rou, Yushio. Qingguo introduced the two of them to each other. Hello. Tang Rou stretched out her hand. Qingguo looked at this pair of hands, extremely envious. Yushio's hands were indeed very beautiful, but they were still the hands of a man. If they were born on a woman, they would be a bit too big. Tang Rou's hands were those of a real girl, smooth and soft like jade. It wasn't an exaggeration to describe Tang Rou's hands. Hello, hello. On Yushio's side, 2 or 3 fried dough sticks filled his mouth. He chewed vigorously, but his pronunciation wasn't very clear. Seeing Tang Rou reaching out her hand, she hurriedly took it. The two of them held hands. Tang Rou also noticed Yushio's hand. Knowing the limit, she just glanced at it while holding hands, then politely looked straight at Yushio. After the two of them shook hands, they each withdrew. Yushio's face was no different from usual, but in his heart he was extremely surprised, because he did not expect a girl named Tang Rou to look like this. Her appearance and figure were both outstanding, but what made people feel that she was not ordinary was the temperament that radiated from her. Her appearance, her face, her clothes, there was not a single spot that made people uncomfortable. This was the type of person that no matter which angle she looked at, would attract the eyes and legends, a beauty with no dead angles. Only her short hair looked a little different from a girl's at first glance, but after looking at it many times, she felt that the short hair made her even more innocent and beautiful. However, the special thing that surprised Yushio was not here. He was surprised that such an outstanding girl could volunteer to work for nearly 2 years in an internet cafe. No matter how big the Xing Xian internet cafe was, in the end, the only person who could get rich was Chen Guo. For ordinary employees, the benefits here might be better, but it could not be considered a job with a bright future. Internet cafe, cashier. Which young person would consider this as a career to pursue for the rest of their life? These were just temporary jobs to earn a living. For an ordinary person, 2 years of work would be a long time, let alone an outstanding girl like Tang Rou. Come here, let's have another battle. Qingguo didn't let Yushio continue to think. After introducing the two people, she went straight to the point. She had waited all day and had to restrain herself from dragging Yushio out of bed. Play what? Yushio asked. Glory. What else can I play? Qingguo said. Ah, you play Glory too? Yushio asked Tang Rou. No, I don't play. Tang Rou laughed. Qingguo heard this and was very unhappy. If you don't play, then I'm considered playing too? I'm a real player. You're just average. Tang Rou said. What do you mean average? Yushio was puzzled. Don't listen to her modesty. She knows how to play very well. After Qingguo finished speaking, she pulled the two people to sit at the computer. Little Tang, just use my Axis River. Qingguo finished speaking and turned to ask Yushio, what about you? You turned 20 last night? What job change? You haven't changed yet. Yushio said. Why not change? I play a rogue. Yushio said. Rogue? Qingguo was very surprised. Even someone who had been playing for 5 years like her had never experienced the era of the loose players. She had only heard veteran players mention it. According to the veteran players, it was a legend. How can loose players play? How can they level up after level 50? Qingguo said. It used to be impossible, but now it is possible. Yushio said. How can they level up? Qingguo asked. Divine Domain. Yushio said. What a joke. Qingguo widened her eyes. You think you can complete the challenge of Divine Domain at level 50? Is it amazing? Your brain is amazing. Qingguo said. Challenge Divine Domain at level 50. Qingguo wanted to analyze how difficult this matter was, but at this moment she couldn't say the reason, because the difficulty was too much. She didn't know where to start. If you want to see it, no matter what, don't fire me. Yushio laughed and said, You're crazy. Qingguo concluded. Yushio laughed and logged into his account while saying, My account is only 21. If I want to fight with your level 70, then go to the repair arena. You want to use that broken account? Qingguo's eyes widened. Then what should I use? Yushio was confused. What class do you want to play? I'll borrow it for you. This was also the purpose of Qingguo asking Yushio what class he wanted to change to. There were countless regular customers in Qingguo's internet cafe, and when needed, they could borrow another account to use temporarily. Loose person. Go. Tang Rou happily looked at the two of them from the side and discovered that it was really just like what everyone said. This person was very easy to make Qingguo angry. Just play a random game. No need to be so serious. Tang Rou said. That's right. Yushio echoed. How can we fight between level 21 and level 70? Qingguo said. The repair arena. Yushio said. Qingguo was speechless. The tuning arena was usually used for training. Winning or losing would not be included in the character's evaluation score. Because in this arena, the system would modify the character's attributes and equipment. After being tuned, even if a level 21 character was compared to a max level 70 character, the attributes would not be much different. Although the attributes changed, the difference in skills could not be compensated. A level 20 character would definitely not have skills after 20. This aspect was not tuned at all. Even if a level 21 fought a level 70 in the tuning arena, they would still be at a disadvantage. You forgot. I'm a rogue. Level 20 or 70 doesn't matter. Yushio said. Shinguo reacted in time. That's right, if it was a rogue, it really wouldn't matter, because rogues originally didn't have intermediate and advanced skills from level 20 and above. Chapter 48. The Ever-Changing. Alright, I also want to broaden my horizons a bit. See what the legendary loose person is like. Shinguo said. Ever since she started playing Glory, the way to play loose person had completely disappeared. Create a room. Yeah, choose that map, the smallest one. Shinguo stood behind Tangro with her hands on her hips and commanded. The arena in Glory was a public server for everyone. After entering the arena, one could cross the region differences to compete. The character name would have the region above it, so even if there were duplicate names, one could still distinguish them. Invite him, Lord Grimm. Yeah, it's these 3 words. Shinguo said. Tangro invited. The system said, the invited person is not currently on the arena. What are you doing? Hurry up and check. Shinguo shouted. Wait a moment. Use some skill points first. Junemo Shao leveled up last night, traversed dungeons, did quests, and had a lot of skill points, but he still hadn't used them. Slowly. Shinguo muttered. She was impatient, but Tangro was leisurely, glancing at the equipment on Zhu Yin's body. Have you found any good equipment recently? Although she didn't play, she understood Zhu Yin's account no less than Shinguo. Shinguo liked to talk about these things. No, it's not that easy. Shinguo replied, but couldn't help but look over at Yushio, and saw the ghost secretly beckoning to her, as if hinting for her to come over. What else? Shinguo quietly walked over, using her eyes to ask, You deliberately want me to fight her. There's no special reason, right? Yushio asked in a low voice. Think about it. Why? I don't know. You know, why are you asking me? There's no need to give in to her, right? Yushio said. Give in? You can beat her first, and then talk. Shinguo said. Yeah. Yushio nodded, and brought Lord Grimm into the arena. All right. Tangro invited. Yushio accepted, and Shinguo ran behind Tangro. As a result, seeing that Yushio was not in a hurry to prepare, he turned his neck to look this way and asked, Let's just fight like this? Do you want to play a fun game with a prize? What prize? Shinguo couldn't explain. For example, betting on a pack of cigarettes and so on. Yushio suggested. Shinguo almost died of anger, and just as she wanted to roar, Tangro happily said, All right. But I don't know how to smoke, and I don't have any cigarettes. Can we bet $100 with each other? Okay. Yushio happily said. Then Guiguo will testify. Here's my $100. Tangro took out $100 and gave it to Shinguo. Are you too serious? Shinguo was extremely surprised. Just play around. Tangro laughed. All right. Shinguo easily accepted Tangro's 100 coins bet. Looked towards Yushio. Where's yours? Oh, this. I have a precious pack of cigarettes. Are you crazy, poor? Shinguo was really both annoyed and amused, also took out 100 coins and put it down. I'll lend it to you. Deduct it from your salary. Okay. I'll return it to you right away. Yushio said. Very confident. Let's start. Tangro said. Start. The image changed. Both sides entered the arena. This map was the map with the smallest arena. The 2 sides fought each standing in a corner. Shinguo was in charge of directing outside. He didn't change classes. This type is a loose person. His skills change quite a lot. Looking at the weapon in his hand, you can judge which class skills he will use. Tangro responded. Although she didn't officially play Glory, but over the past year she had been dragged by Shinguo to PK quite a bit. She also knew the basics of the character's professions. What weapon is that in his hand? Tangro pointed at the screen. This. Shinguo looked at it for a long time, but couldn't recognize it. So she asked directly, What weapon is that in your hand? How mean? Yushio said, You dare to ask directly? It looks like an umbrella in the rain. Tangro controlled Zhu Yinha to jump forward a few steps to get closer to her line of sight and said, Umbrella? Without this kind of weapon, is it a broom? Shinguo also leaned over to look. I'm coming. Yushio had just finished speaking when he sent Lord Grimm to rush forward, charging straight towards the river of flames. Tangro's movements were indeed extremely fast. As soon as Lord Grimm moved, she clicked the mouse and fired an accurate cannon, but she only saw a flash before her eyes. Lord Grim was charging forward and quickly moved to avoid the cannon. Standing by and observing, Chen Guo also knew the name of this technique, zigzag swing. The operating principle was simple, but in actual combat, it would be very difficult to grasp the technique. After one cannon, the distance was greatly reduced by Lord Grim, his body lowered, and he slid close to the ground and passed through the river of flames. Cheat. Chen Guo was emotional. Although sliding belonged to the archer system, it was a physical skill, so it didn't matter what weapon he used. This attack still didn't reveal what kind of toy he was holding in his hand. Tang Rou's hand speed really did not disappoint Chen Guo's expectations. Before being hit by the sliding attack, Truck Yen Ha had already leaned to dodge, then turned around and prepared to use physical skills to counterattack. Dodging and escaping attacks were all very strong. Who would have thought that the scene before his eyes suddenly flashed with silver light? Junemo Zhao's right hand pulled out a sharp sword from the weapon in the unknown left hand. And that silver light was not simply pulling out a weapon. This was a swordsman's skill, draw saber slash. This attack that just came out was beyond Chen Guo's expectations. If it were her, even wanting her hand to be able to react would probably be too slow. Unlike Duong Nu, her left hand had already finished typing 2 actions. Her right hand pushed the mouse. Truck Yen Ha jumped back to avoid while raising her arm to prepare to fire a cannon. This move could both avoid the attack of pulling the blade and slash, and could also fight back. After firing a cannon, using the recoil, she could also fly the cannon to fly back to increase the distance. It was indeed killing 3 people with 1 blow. Chen Guo wanted to praise him, but he didn't expect that after Jun Ma Xiao used the move of drawing saber slash, he had already sheathed his sword long ago. He conveniently picked up the sword that had already been sheathed and chased Zhu Yinha from the air. At this moment, he had already swung it in front of him. With this faster change, Chen Guo no longer considered whether there was a swordsman who would use the sword sheath to hit someone. He only felt that this strike was still a small distance away from Zhu Yinha. But he didn't expect that the thing in Jun Ma Xiao's hand suddenly opened like an umbrella. In an instant, it was folded upside down, the umbrella ribs were folded, and the top of the umbrella after being folded looked like an extremely large spear. And in an instant, it had already stabbed Zhu Yinha. The next day, Jun Ma Xiao raised his hand. This spear pulled Zhu Yinha to draw a crescent moon, throwing Zhu Yinha to the ground. Chen Guo was surprised, because this move was not a normal attack skill. This skill was called Round Feather Staff. It was a move of a mage-type battle mage. It was not surprising that a loose person had this skill, but the problem was that Jun Ma Xiao had just used that thing to perform the sword slash, corresponding to a swordsman-type weapon. How did it instantly turn into a mage-type battle spear? Tang Rou was also surprised in her heart, but in terms of operation, after a few rounds of fighting, her operation had actually slowed down a bit. This was something that surprised her. Because Glory brought a very strong first-person perspective, so this round feather staff skill, compared to damage, the kind of damage that made the whole person suddenly spin around without finding a direction was even more difficult for the player. Chen Guo was considered a veteran with some experience, so she wouldn't be easily stunned just like that. But Tang Rou only occasionally played for her, and although her hand speed allowed her to operate extremely quickly, her judgment was still not enough to deal with this kind of attack that changed her perspective. While she was hurriedly turning around to distinguish the direction, she didn't expect that Zhu Yinha wouldn't be able to turn around and stand up. As soon as her perspective shifted, Jun Ma Xiao was stepping on her on the ground. The thing in his hand had already returned to its original form. This time, they finally got a closer look at the shape of that thing. Chen Guo and Tang Rou both saw that the thing was indeed an umbrella, but the tip of the umbrella was aimed at Zhu Yinha's head. The two of them had not yet recovered from their shock when a series of sparks suddenly appeared at the top of the umbrella, and a loud bang-bang sound rang out, shooting straight at Zhu Yinha, who was lying on the ground. The wandering sniper's skill was a sniper system, kick shot. Club suit, club suit, club suit, club suit. Chapter 49. Really don't know how to play. Fuck. What is this? Chen Guo's eyes widened. The weapon in Lord Grim's hand was actually 3-in-1. The weapon could transform into a sword, spear, and gun? Compared to Chen Guo's shock, Tang Rou, who didn't understand Glory very well, wasn't too scared. Her fingers pressed extremely fast. Zhu Yinha threw out a tornado kick. After Lord Grim jumped to avoid it, Zhu Yinha immediately reached out and threw out an anti-tank cannon. Tang Rou's movements were very fast. The attack time of this skill was also very short. The distance was close. Lord Grim was hit and immediately turned into a light smoke. Tang Rou and Chen Guo were both stunned. Not to mention that in the modified arena, it was impossible to kill someone with just one move, and even if a person was killed instantly, they would leave behind a corpse. How could it turn into light smoke like this? Flying up to the sky? Not good. When Tang Rou realized it, it was too late. She only saw a layer of blood swelling in front of her. It was shot out from Truck Yenha's neck. Assassin's skill. Cut the throat. This skill had to be used from the back, and it was an attack towards the defenseless back. Although it was a low-level skill, the damage was quite high. As for Lord Grimm, who was previously blown into smoke by the anti-tank cannon, now both of them understood clearly it was a ninja's clone technique skill. Junimo Xiao had just jumped to avoid her kick when he used it, leaving the clone in front of him, while the real person jumped behind her, completing this throat cut. The expression of the person who had been continuously attacked, Tang Rou, had become extremely serious. A series of continuous mouse and keyboard sounds rang out. Truck Yenha took a big step through the blood screen and jumped slightly. Less than half a meter from the ground, he had completed a 180-degree turn. The agility in his movements was clearly visible. The mouse moved extremely fast, wanting to find a target to explode the cannon. As a result, as soon as he changed his perspective, he saw a blood-colored blade aiming at his head and slashing down. The skill of the Mad Swordsman belonged to the swordsman system, Shattered Mountain Halberd. All the skills that a loose person could learn, although they could not be changed or increased like other specialized professions, their inherent effectiveness was not inferior. Shattered Mountain Halberd slashed Truck Yenha down in midair, and upon impact with the ground, it was also bounced back a small distance. Junimo Xiao quickly seized this fleeting opportunity and kneed him, sending Zhu Yinhe flying into the sky. Wu Tianji swung his sword slightly, aiming straight for Zhu Yinhe, who was floating in the air. Chen Guo and Tang Rou were both very familiar with this skill. It was the barbecue skill of the artillery master. Zhu Yinhe immediately turned around and stood up to fight again after falling from that burning shot, but after turning his view around, he still couldn't see Jun Ma Xiao's figure. He only saw a green-skinned dwarf staggering and throwing rocks at her. Tang Rou Chen Guo wanted to break down. This was the summoning pet of the mage system summoner. Raising the cannon to blow up the dwarf, Jun Ma Xiao suddenly descended from the sky, stopping on top of Zhu Yinhe's head. The skill of the grappling system martial artist, Eagle Tread. At this moment, Tang Rou no longer had the mood to play around, like at the beginning. After being stepped on, Zhu Yinhe had already tilted the cannon up to the sky, preparing to shoot down Jun Ma Xiao, but unexpectedly. The tip of Jun Ma Xiao's umbrella was aimed at her first. Sparks flew out. A blood flower bloomed on top of Zhu Yinhe's head. Jun Ma Xiao, again relying on the recoil of the previous shot, flew back with a very generous flying cannon. Close combat was actually extremely disadvantageous to the artillery master. Tang Rou still wanted to use flying cannon to extend the distance but failed for a long time. But did not expect that this time it was the opponent who took the initiative to fly far away. Suffering continuous attacks caused Truck Yenha's health to be very low. Not even the corner of Lord Grimm's clothes had been touched. Tang Rou had no intention of giving up, was preparing to continue attacking, suddenly heard Yishio from the opposite side say a sentence. No more fighting? Why? Tang Rou asked. So you really don't know how to play? Yishio said. Tang Rou was momentarily at a loss for words. Except for the usual times when Chen Guo would happily tell her a few things, Ven Kuang really didn't know anything. But just like this, relying on the speed of her hands to operate extremely quickly, it really helped Chen Guo defeat countless opponents that Chen Guo could not defeat, and even completed the skill challenge mission that had troubled many players. It could be said that Tang Rou did not know glory, but she was very strong. Just because of that reason, Chen Guo thought of 1,000 ways to attract her into the game. But also because of this reason, Tang Rou was never interested in this game glory. A smooth and favorable start would make many people decide to continue developing a matter, but Tang Rou was the opposite. With something that she could easily do, no matter how she did it, she could not enjoy it. After tormenting each other for so long, Chen Guo also discovered that this was a girl with an extremely strong competitive spirit. When she encountered something that was difficult for her to deal with, she would, without needing to be reminded, rush forward and overcome it. Just like when Truck Yenha first challenged the Divine Domain skills, Tang Nu also failed many times before succeeding. During that time, she had exploded with all her motivation, and it seemed that she liked Ven Kuang 100 times more than Tranqua. Tranqua still thought that this time she could make Duong Nu's heart flutter, but who would have thought that after completing the skill challenge, Duong Nu quickly lost interest in Ven Kuang. Finding equipment or something, Duong Nu did not take these things that relied on luck seriously. In short, Bin Kwang in Duong Nu's eyes was just a simple matter. To arouse her interest, she had to change her impression first. Therefore, Tran Kwa had always wanted to find an opponent that Duong Nu could not deal with so that she would realize the difficulty in it. Unfortunately, it was completely the opposite. The so-called experts that Tang Rou met in the arena were all quickly beaten down by Tang Rou. Famous people with far-reaching reputations, true experts in the professional world. Chen Guo had lectured Tang Rou many times, but Tang Rou only laughed and did not agree. There was no other way. Only the truth could overcome eloquence. But what kind of expert did Chen Guo ask? It was not until this morning when Tang Rou returned that Chen Guo suddenly had the thought of letting Yi Xiu give it a try. Chen Guo did not know how strong Yi Xiu was, but after all, he was someone who had been in the professional world, so of course he was a bit stronger than an ordinary person. At most he would just hear Tang Rou say, "It's that simple." This was Chen Guo's plan, but after interacting with Yi Xiu, he was angered by this person, so angry that Chen Guo forgot his original thoughts, standing behind Tang Rou, waiting for Tang Rou to beat Yi Xiu to death, venting his anger on his behalf. It wasn't until Tang Rou was beaten to the point where she couldn't fight back, and even when Yi Xiu said she didn't know how to play, that Chen Guo finally regained her composure. Don't know how to play? Chen Guo felt that this assessment was a bit too much. If this wasn't considered knowing how to play, then what were the countless defeated opponents Tang Rou had been? Furthermore, this guy was too strong, completely suppressing Tang Rou from the start to the end. Those who had been around the professional world were truly different. Normally, watching competitions and watching videos, he had never seen someone this unnaturally strong. It seems that it also depends on the opponent. Professional experts are on the same level as professional experts. When fighting against normal players, the difference between the two is immediately clear. Yi Xiu on the opposite side stood up, nodded and said, "The operation of the left hand is very fast, but the coordination between the left and right hand is extremely bad. The ability to adapt to quickly changing the angle of view and basic judgment is zero. The understanding of equipment and skills is not enough at all. Lack of actual combat experience, shallow fighting style. How can you think you know how to play? With this level, if you want to defeat me, you will need another 100 years. Chapter 50, again. Hey, you're too much. Chen Guo was really angry. Although she really wanted to find someone to stimulate Tang Rou, she didn't expect this Yi Xiu to say that Tang Rou was so bad. Was there a need to go that far? Oh, I'm sorry. Yi Xiu said, I'm a bit too much. That 100 years was just an exaggerated description. It really doesn't take that long. Hearing the first half of the sentence, Chen Guo was surprised that this guy actually admitted his mistake. After hearing the second sentence, she was so angry that her nose almost twisted. You didn't say anything good. Chen Guo looked at Tang Rou as she spoke, thinking to herself that she was really miserable. She had always wanted to stimulate this little girl, but now that she had stimulated her, she was afraid of stimulating her too much. It's very fast, I told you. Yi Xiu said. What else? Chen Guo said. Also, Yi Xiu tried to think for a while, his eyes wandering elsewhere. She looks very beautiful. Chen Guo coughed up blood. Was this praising someone? Was this praising someone? But while discussing the game, he suddenly said, she looks very beautiful. Wasn't this saying that the other party was a complete loser in the game? Tang Rou wanted to explode. Chen Guo lowered her head to look, only to see Tang Rou biting her lips, her right hand still tightly gripping the mouse. If it were Chen Guo, she would have used the keyboard to beat someone up by now. But Tang Rou was not her after all. She only coldly said, let's talk about it after you beat her. No need to beat her anymore. Just now you were the one who showed mercy. Otherwise, after Ing Di, it would be Ing Guang Luoren, using the heavenly strike to sweep, dragon tooth, falling flower, Yuan Wu Kuan, I would have fallen too. Yi Xiu said. Then why don't you continue? Tang Rou asked. Then you will win. You have to make me give you 100 yuan. But I don't know how to play. Winning is not glorious. This 100 yuan is really embarrassing to take. Forget it. Yi Xiu said, then looked towards Chen Guo. Boss, that 100 yuan is mine. Deducted from your salary, I told you before. You. Chen Guo was so angry that he picked up the 100 yuan and crumpled it into a ball and threw it over. Take it. Thank you. Yi Xiu quickly took it. It's not like he didn't have any money in his pocket, but cigarettes were like food to him, a fixed source of expenses. He had to calculate long-term, prepare in advance to avoid trouble. Losing is losing. No need to give in. You can take this 100 yuan. Tang Rou stood up straight, took the 100 yuan he had bet, and handed it over. Forget it. It's embarrassing. Yishio said. Take it. Qingguo glared at Yishio on this side. She understood Tang Rou's temperament. This girl was both unyielding and serious. If Yishio insisted on not accepting the money, this matter would not end. She was also afraid now, afraid that this Yishio was also a guy who cared about trivial matters, refusing to accept it no matter what. So what should she do? Finally, she heard Yishio say, Then I'll take the boss. You still have her money. This bastard. Throwing the difficult task to me. Qingguo was angry, but seeing that Tang Rou had absolutely no intention of making a big deal out of it, Qingguo didn't want the conflict to become more intense, so she could only take the initiative to step forward and accept the money. The accounts are all settled. Let's play another game. Tang Rou threw a sentence over and sat down. Qingguo could only let tears fall from her face. This was Tang Rou. She would not argue with people like him. She was a person of action, a staunch supporter of truth prevails over rhetoric, and would only use her strength to blow you up until there were no more words left to say. Because the modified arena was a training ground, there was no point in winning or losing, and entry and exit were also free. After Tang Rou sat down, she directly chose to return again. Not waiting for Yishio to say anything more, she took out a 100 yuan bill and placed it on the table. Still 100 yuan, although I don't know how to play. But I hope you can handle it seriously. Yishio turned his head to look at Qingguo. Qingguo waved his hand, indicating that she couldn't handle this. If he did it himself, he could handle it himself. All right. Yishio didn't say anything more and quietly sat down. A new game started. Qingguo was still standing behind Tang Rou, but this time he just quietly observed, not saying much and not being surprised anymore. The situation didn't change at all from the previous game. Zhu Yinhe had already lost before he could even touch the corner of Jun Maxiao's clothes. The only difference was, Jun Maxiao didn't show any mercy this time, directly killing Zhu Yinhe cleanly. Here we go again. Tang Rou didn't say a word. She took out another 100 and smashed it, choosing again. Still lost. Again. Still lost. Again. Still lost. Yishio didn't say anything. Cheng was standing on this side, couldn't see Yishio's expression behind the computer. She could only see that Lord Grimm wasn't giving in at all, serious, careful, not letting go of any opportunity, vicious and merciless. Quite a few online users had gradually paid attention to the competition here. Some regular users had left their computers to watch the excitement. Most of the regular users knew Tang Rou. This beauty was the target that quite a few of them chose to masturbate to. So most of them also knew that Tang Rou didn't play Glory, but her PK level in Glory was really not low. At this moment, they only saw her smashing 100 yuan bill after another on the table. Everyone was wide-eyed and open-mouthed. As for her opponent, having only been here for 2 days and having worked the night shift, the regulars couldn't immediately recognize him. But after watching the battle on the screen for a while, someone behind Tang Rou suddenly exclaimed in surprise, Junimo Xiao, it's Junimo Xiao from District 10. Is that right? Where? This sentence affected many people, and quite a few people who didn't originally participate in the gossip also ran over. Everyone ran behind Tang Rou, trying to identify the ID on her opponent's head. Tang Rou and Yishio, the two of them were not disturbed at all, continuing to carefully compete. Qingguo was also very surprised to see the reactions of the people after seeing Junimo Xiao. She grabbed the person standing next to her and asked, What about Junimo Xiao? The most famous person in District 10. He took the first place 3 times in the newbie village. The record holder of the Frost Forest instance has joined the Blue Stream Pavilion. No way. I know the people from the Blue Stream Pavilion. Junimo Xiao only helped them set a record yesterday, but after he did, he left the guild. Oh shit. The Blue Stream Pavilion doesn't even bother. What does he want? Hey, keep your voice down. The person is sitting across from him. What? The other side? The crowd didn't know the truth and didn't even know that the person Tang Rou was beating to determine the winner was the person sitting across from her. TSK? He lost again. How much is this? I don't know. It already started when I arrived. There's 500 yuan on the table, right? Right. Hey, another bill. Again. Brother Tang, keep it up. Just like that. Tang Rou lost 10 games in a row. In these 10 games, it couldn't be said that she didn't even touch the corner of Junimo Xiao's clothes. But in the eyes of the spectators, there was no chance that she could win. Some of the people who had previously cheered her on now turned to dissuade her, and some began to look down on Jun and Mo Xiao for not knowing how to cherish women. Again, Tang Rose still didn't move, and shouted this again. But as soon as she flipped her wallet, she was stunned. There was no way she could do it again, because she had no money left.